For some reason, I have the hardest time starting scripts for some of these super old games. So I figure, let's ignore all of the bullshit and let's just get into it. This week on That Game Review Show, I'm your host, James, and we're going to be taking a look at one of my favorite NES games, and one that often tends to get overlooked, Kid Icarus. In Kid Icarus, we take up the role of Pit, a flightless angel who is tasked by the gods to climb up out of the underworld and save the goddess Palutena from Medusa. That's it. Well, there's a little bit more, obviously, and none of it is shown in the game itself. Other than saving Palutena, Pit is required to retrieve the 3 sacred treasures from the various bosses, which will allow him to actually face off against Medusa. So the original game doesn't make it very clear on what the actual treasures are, but in Uprising they do kind of explain it. It's the shield, the arrows of light, and the wings of Pegasus. It's not super important to what they actually do. I mean, you only use them in the last stage, and the only one that's really important are the Pegasus wings so that Pit can fly across the stage. Apparently the 3 treasures are based on Japanese mythology, and that's why there are 3 of them. And also to justify the 3 bosses in order to get them. The bosses are Pandora, the Huge Raw, and Twin Bellows. Not counting Medusa, obviously, and of course Thanatos, which is a small snake in the final boss arena. And I actually learned something recently. Huge Raw has many similarities to the Hydra from Greek mythology, and there's a reason for that. Much like Thanatos, Huge Raw is a bad translation from the Japanese name. Nothing crazy, but a fun little detail I wanted to bring up. And I'm sure you've noticed, and it kinda goes without saying, but this game is based, at least somewhat loosely, on Greek mythology. Not unlike God of War, where they take some stories and ideas and add their own story behind everything. Pit starts in the underworld, having been cast out of heaven by Medusa. He makes his way up and out, and then across the lands, and finally up to Skyworld. Each world is broken up into several levels, all of them ending with a stronghold, where the linear level design goes bye-bye. The gameplay itself is simple. You can duck and jump and shoot arrows. Despite Pit being an angel, he can't really fly around, so he's stuck walking on the ground like us peasants. With every enemy defeated, you can collect these hearts, which, much like Castlevania, aren't used for health, they're actually used for buying things in the store. That's right, there is a store. You can buy health alcohol and other weapons and tools to help you out, like a feather that gives you flight if you fall into a pit. There is a secondary thing you get from enemies, and that's score. Score acts like experience in an RPG. The higher your score, the more total health you actually have, increasing at predetermined intervals. So when you go through the game, kill as many enemies as you can. Because of the score system, this game is as easy or as hard as you want it to be, because more health is always great with how many annoying enemies there are. Also, not gonna lie, I did use the rewind function on the NES Online a bit, because the game can be quite obnoxious at times, so I suggest playing with that as well. It also helps with the fact that when you crouch down, for some ungodly reason you will drop down from thin platforms, and if you're not careful, it will kill you. Kid Icarus is an excellent game, and I feel like it doesn't get as much love as it deserves. Of course, it hasn't aged particularly well, but that's the case for most NES games from one extent or another. But if you give it a chance, you might actually enjoy it. I do want to bring up real fast, there is a version of this game out on 3DS which adds a save system and you can actually float down to platforms, and it does make the overall experience a little bit easier. So if you actually still use your 3DS, go ahead and get it. That's how I enjoyed it. So that was Kid Icarus. I wanted to do a shorter video to act as a buffer while I work on some of the other videos. Plus, it's based on Greek mythology, so it kind of works with the God of War marathon I'm kinda doing. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please let us know down below. I really want to try and boost our audience this next year, and that would definitely help a lot. Subscribe if you haven't already, and next week is Terrell's week, where he will have something quite tasty for you. Hopefully.